Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
From Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Super Soul Farm. Welcome to Live. Say what's up, everybody. Woo. It's Ashram 2.0, and we're going strong here. And a lot of people from Zoom, although we have 91 people on Zoom, our Zoom chat board is actually going out of control right now because I said, how long you guys been listening to the show? And it's actually very inspiring. Some of these people show up every day. It's quite unbelievable. Jim Wood says after Joe Rogan, when we were on Joe Rogan, every day since then.
So over 2 years, 2.5 years.
Oops. It's pretty amazing. I met a lot of Joe Rogans today over the week.
People that came from Joe Rogan.
People that came from Joe Rogan, and they just never stopped.
Raghunath, you're gonna look at you. It's ridiculous. You asked that question. Now everybody's writing on the chat board, and now you're hopeless.
Now I'm hopeless.
This show is not going to work today.
Laura Bino, 3 years, a few months from Daniel Tompkins. How are you, Prabhu?
I'm doing.
I'm
good.
actually sitting. You can't tell. I'm sitting right across from.
We can look at each other and look into the camera at the same time. Now this is good.
Oh yeah, it'll be as if I'm looking through you, so I can look at Kaustubha. It's fun. Kaustubha's we're sharing the house together. He's in the room next to me.
Yeah.
You know what that means? We set our alarms for 11 p.m. Wake up and pillow fight.
I'm just dealing with your cats again. It's a
the
different setup.
You know, the cats are in that room that you're in, and they live there.
Only one now, it seems like.
No, one lives in the closet.
Well, there's only one been hanging out with me.
Yeah? You got Buttercup now.
Okay. The other one, I think
sweet.
I offended the other one by...
Yeah, you called him out publicly on the show. It's humiliating. He said he was your lover from a previous life.
Is it a he? I thought it was a
she.
he.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, I had no idea.
Your gay lover from a previous life. Whatever, love is love.
That's true.
Okay,
let's get moving on this show, Raghunath.
All right.
We got announcements to make?
We got some announcements, Mara. Let's unmute Mara or unmute our...
We have hi. There's a Bhakti recovery group meeting today at 1:00, and Zeb is offering an asana class for our Patreon members at 4 p.m.
All right. Well. I've just got the announcements of our. We're doing our December 9th through the 16th. We're doing another ashram week here. Boom, with Bhakti Alata. The beautiful Bhakti learning Bhakti etiquette foundational Bhakti stuff. We're thinking about doing another kirtan school with Seth Lieberman, but through like an ashram week, December 2nd through the 9th. Email bhaktiretreats108@gmail.com if you're interested. Of course, it's not up yet, but we will have our wisdom training. It should be up very soon. Wisdom training at the Govardhan Eco Village, starting on the 14th. So email bhaktiretreats108 if you're interested in that as well. Our Bhakti Cultural Immersion 300-hour teacher training is back on the map, and that's up on my website, raghunath.yoga. And you could check that out by going there, reading it through. Any question, also Bhakti Retreats 108. And that starts in the beginning. This just in. This just that was so Jim Jensen. Okay, Walter Cronkite. Kirtan Academy, January 16th through the 29th. There we go. That's in India. Wisdom training, the 14th through the 29th. And the 300 hour is the 4th through the 29th. That's wonderful.
Okay, we got to get that up in there.
Gotta get that up. We got a lot on our plate, but it's happening. Srimad Bhagavatam every day. We're back in it. But before we start our class, we always go to a little nugget. And we've been lately quoting nuggets of one person throughout the weeks because there's many, many wise people out there. So we say, you know what? Let's just take whatever, Thomas Merton, or we did Greek week. And this week we have one of our favorite philosophers. And his name is, you might know him. He was a great Mahatma from another galaxy named Yoda. Okay, this is Yoda week here. Here he says, ready, Kostuba?
I'm ready.
Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
Is that your impersonation?
That's my Yoda impression. Didn't sound great. Train yourself to let go of everything you fear
to lose.
Okay.
What do you have to say about
You got to
that?
dig into your biggest fears first.
Yeah, or you got to examine them, right? Or even kind of let go of whatever. You know, what are fears? It's we fear that we're going to lose something that we have. We fear that something's going to happen that's going to be unpleasant to us. And I mean, how do you suppose you train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose?
Well, if you don't philosophically understand it, then oftentimes you lose something. And you lose something. So you train yourself almost like by trial and error. I wasn't ready to lose this and I lost it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this one hits home with me in a very deep way.
Okay. Yoda touched you?
It touched me to do it. I've raised two children that I'm not very close to anymore. And it was
like stepchildren.
My stepchildren. I never called them my stepchildren. I raised them like my children. But for what was the thing that you said about the prostitute, by the trick of fate?
Trick of chance.
By the trick of chance, or however it goes, I don't have a relationship with them. And it was probably the most heartbreaking thing. And things change. Maybe they'll come around. But I don't have a relationship with them. And it was probably the most heartbreaking thing that ever happened to me. Because when you love, you expect there will be reciprocal love with a child. And some childs just choose not to reciprocate for whatever reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when we read this, train yourself to. So now I have 3 more children. So what do I do? Just not love them? No, it's our duty is to love. We benefit from loving. I lost nothing from loving those children. I only gained. And in retrospect, I can see how much they've contributed to my life. But
then why do you need to train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose?
I think it's to refine love, personally. For at least with the children, it's to refine my love. I want to make sure I'm loving for the right reason and not loving hey, I'm giving you this, you better give me this back. I want to love in a pure way. If I want to be able to love in a way where I'm not just being needy for love in return. But it also makes me understand that at any minute, the thing or the person that you're so attached to can just you can just lose it.
Right.
And therefore, don't invest the big L, the capital L, because even our kids, they're not ours. They're not ours. We can't own them. We can't possess them. And at any minute, they could do 180 degrees away from you. There is one repository for my love, which is Krishna, with the capital L. And then I've got to love everything else of this world, every being, whether they're related to me or not. We're in training to love, but at the same time, we can't expect those to be eternal loves. People die, or you get what the
what's with this new watch you got?
Why is
Oh,
my
that's your phone?
Siri always bumping into my soliloquies? But I lost my train of thought. Thanks, Siri.
Well, you've brought it to a very esoteric place.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I don't know if it's esoteric, but
well,
very
in other words, you
tangible,
start talking
human.
about love. When I saw this, I was just thinking more just on the level of like yogic detachment, or let's say samatvam, right? This evenness of mind. If you're going to have evenness of mind, you're going to have to be free of fear, right? Because whether it's a big thing, you're talking about a very big thing, like your relationship with your children.
Mm.
But there are things that aren't so big in life, like whether even if I'm attached to that, or it may have to do with my, something to do with my wealth, or something to do with
Sure.
my time, or something to do with a possession, or so, like if I fear losing it, then it's actually it's funny, right? Because it's not even just the actual loss of something. Even the fear of losing it is problematic. Like you may even never lose it, or not lose it in your lifetime, and you're fearing it.
Right.
But I think it's through this. You mentioned philosophically understanding it, and I think that's the key here. Like in others, how does the training take place? It takes place through reflection, through hearing, and then through reflection, which is that's it's shravana, means hearing, and then manana. Then you reflect on what you've heard, and through that, one can develop a detachment. Even when you have something, and this is why I think it has so much, like the idea of children is such an interesting idea, because you don't have to not love them, but you do have to realize that they're not your possession.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
It's a very big pill to swallow.
And it can be like that with everything that you quote unquote possess, right? Your wealth, your home, your reputation. In one sense, you can live with it, but through reflection, you're ready to let go of it at any time, because you're going to let go of it at some time. You're going to either it's going to be taken from you and it's going to be painful and disrupting to your mind, or you can let go of it internally already. You train yourself to let go of it, and this way you pass through life when those moments come that you have to let go, where nature forces you, time forces you to let go of something. You've already let go of it, and your mind remains steady, and you're not rocked by it.
I think parents can relate to that when you have any child, as well as wealth and things like that. But especially with a child, there's almost like a built-in fear at every stage. From little childhood, there's fear. Are they healthy? Are they nursing well? Are they growing properly? Are they gaining enough weight? Then as they get older, there's fear there. Are they going to toddle away and fall down a hole or hurt themselves or get lost? There's fear. Will they get kidnapped? Will they get sick? Will they grow up strong? Will they become intelligent? Will they get any mental diseases? So many. Once you have a child and then send the kid off to school, that's riddled with a whole nother thing of anxieties and fears. When they're teenagers, that brings a whole new plethora of fears. So it's like having kids is fearful. Then there's the thing of carry a lot of cash around with you, and you're like, I'm going to lose
Not too often.
Not a lot. We used to come back from tour just with cash. We used to pay us in cash. We used to come back, $10,000 of cash in your pocket. But it's sort of like there's a fear like I could lose my cash. Whenever you have something, there's a fear that you're going to lose that, or someone could take it from you. Or sometimes if you invest in the stock market and there's just like a hiccup, you could lose $20,000 if you have money invested, or if the real estate market crashes if you own real estate. Whenever you have stuff, even if the stuff is living and flapping around like humans or animals, there's a fear I can lose that. And I don't think we're expected to get rid of the fear. I think with Bhakti, we just learn to fear less. We won't be fearless, but we will fear less. And I think that's part of
why can't we become free of fear?
Because whenever there's
it says
love,
that the devotees are free of fear. Narayana parasarve nakutas chanya vibhiti. What about that?
Sure, but I think to act within this world, because we talk about this, is a very high stage of bhakti, a boyam, where you actually become fearless. But I think to act on that platform and have children, I mean, I don't even know how you could even make them lunch in the morning or do anything for them and take them to soccer. You have to be so out of this world to be that fearless. I think it's understandable to lament if a child dies or if a friend dies. I think that's understandable, but I think it will cushion our fear and our pain. That's what
You know, it's a really interesting point you brought up, because in other words, can one be, let's say, God conscious, let's say that yogic state where you're conscious of God all the time, and have children and not worry about the children sometimes? And is that the fear that's being spoken about? Well, I don't know by Yoda here, right? But like, for instance, the Gita, here's Bhagavad Gita 256, important verse, right? One who's not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who's free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. And so here it's saying being free from attachment, being free from fear, being free from anger. At the same time, this is the very moment where Krishna is asking Arjuna to enter into a battle and to fight. And you know, you can't fight in those battles without like rage. You know, here he's saying you have to be free of anger. So, you know, it's also saying we need to be free from attachment. But our very path of bhakti is raga bhakti. It's a path of attachment, right? But it's attachment for God, right? So it means no material attachment, you know, and perhaps the state of pure bhakti, the consciousness of pure bhakti, in that state. In other words, what I'm saying here is that attachment, fear, and anger, material attachment, fear, and anger, one needs to be free from. But if one feels attachment, fear, or even anger in relation to Krishna, like in a favorable mood with Krishna, if their attachment is to Krishna, hearing Krishna's pastimes, you know, etc. If their fear, if you see your children not as your own possession, but as Krishna's possession, as dear to Krishna, then the fear that you feel for them is a fear that you're feeling not that you're turning your back to Krishna and looking at the material energy, but you're seeing them in relation to Krishna. You're looking at them and Krishna at the same time. And then that fear would be not problematic. Your mind would remain steadily focused, you know, spiritually, even when you're fearing for the welfare of your children.
Sure, I get it. You know, Jiva wrote this on the board, and she said this to me too. You know, because everybody goes through issues with their children, sometimes very serious issues. But she says, I have to let go and understand my children also have their higher power, have their higher power. Doesn't mean they have their own separate God. It means they have their own relationship with God that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
So if you have a kid that resents you, or if you have a kid that dies, or if you have a kid that's going through a drug problem, ultimately they have to sail their own ship. It's their world. That doesn't mean that we're going to be emotionally separated. And it sounds very easy. I read it in the book, but once you throw a kid into that mix into your life, it's very, very new. We're tied to that child almost like karmically. I'd say you'd have to like turn off a lot of emotions that it takes to even raise that kid. You need those roshas to raise that kid in a loving way. But that's why I'm saying you can't be fearless, but you can fear less. I think when the bhakti framework, you can philosophically understand they were never my child. The child passes, they were never mine. The child gets into drugs. They have their own higher power. They're on their own path. This is their path also. And it takes the time to be reflective and philosophical. Doesn't mean you're going to be above it, above those emotions.
Well, I think we're saying two things. On one hand, you're saying that philosophically you can reduce that feeling of fear that you have. And the other thing is that fear itself is not an issue. What's being spoken about in texts like this Bhagavad Gita 256, actually the exact same phrase is repeated in text 410, freedom from attachment, fear, and anger. You know, it reminds me of this, I may have mentioned this before, but there's a book, I think his name is George Fernstein. He's got like an encyclopedia of yoga. Have you ever seen that book?
George Fernstein.
Is that Fernstein?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's maybe George. So in any case, there's a book out called Encyclopedia of Yoga. It's like a modern book.
Yeah.
and the kind of thing you can find in Barnes and Noble or something like that.
Not like a Puranic
Yeah,
encyclopedia.
yeah.
Those are good. Ever read one of those?
Yeah.
Puranic encyclopedias.
So this book, it's an impressive book. You know, he goes through, he covers so much ground, and you know, it's obviously such a broad topic, and he goes through all different types of yoga and all different ideas and teachers and paths, and in a lot of detail. And I don't mean to criticize him or his effort, but you know, like he knows more about this broad range, you know, this broader range of yoga than I do for sure. But I'm a specialist in one aspect of it, and that's bhakti in particular, in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And so within his book, he wrote something on something called raga bhakti, or ragatmika bhakti. Literally the word, and that's a phrase spoken by our Goswamis and popularized by our, maybe even coined, I'm not sure, but
Right.
maybe even coined by the teachers in our lineage. So it's something that we study specifically. And so when he took the term ragatmika bhakti, raga means attachment, atmika means, you know, of the self.
What do you say?
And he said that this is like a lower form of bhakti, when you have bhakti but you still have attachments. So like material attachments, right? Yeah. So we understand that ragatmika bhakti means that my atma is entirely attached to God, and that's actually the goal. That's like the highest form of bhakti. That's not, it's not any material attachment that they're maintaining, but it's an entirely spiritual attachment. So here it's saying freedom from attachment, fear, and anger. It doesn't mean that we become entirely free of attachment. It becomes you become entirely free from material attachment. And even your attachments to material things, if those things are for your offering to God, even that is still spiritual attachment. And so that could also go for your children, you know, and similarly, fear could be seen that way. So I think, again, we're saying two things. One is that through contemplation and philosophical reflection, one can reduce one's level of material fear, but also through devotion, one's fear could be entirely transformed into spiritual fear. That whatever fear one might have for their children, because you're seeing your children entirely as God's energy, then that fear is entirely spiritual, and it's not the fear that one needs to become free from. How's that?
I get it.
You don't like it. There's some reason you're holding up. I don't see why.
These things are like you know, big things I deal with in my life. You know, I even with my own children, who I have my own birth children that I have very, very loving relationship with, you know, I have to philosophize and really contemplate, like, they could just not like me one day, or they could just go against all my values, or they could just decide, you know, I don't want to speak to you again. You know what I mean? I mean, I pretty much, I'm close to my mother, but not really that close. It's like my other brother, like, talks to my mom every day. You know what I mean? I'm just sort of, I went off and did my own thing at like 16, basically. You know, I have no issues with my mother. I love my mother, but I'm not the guy calling my mother every day like my brother is. So it's sort of like, even if I want to be angry at them for doing that, they like Jiva G was saying, they have their own higher power. They have their own path in this world. And when they're needy and they're young, they become a little bit more attached. So sure, that breaking that attachment, seeing ahead of time that it could break in any number of miserable ways. It's really sort of like, I have to be really deep, and I really have to see, where is my deepest love coming from, and that's got to be from a higher power, a higher source. Or else there'll just be total devastation and lamentation and neediness to fill that God-shaped hole in my heart.
Well, you know, I think related to everything that you're saying, and going back to what I was just saying, was that other forms of yoga might demand that you become entirely detached from any fear that you have of the welfare of your children. And actually, this has demand that actually you walk away from those children, you walk off into the forest, and you never see them in. You know, it's quite extreme. And the purpose would be because you need to become entirely free from that attachment. Bhakti yoga does not make that kind of demand. Bhakti yoga is not saying that, you know, we call this yukta vairagya. That's one idea of vairagya, of renunciation. You walk away, you actually walk away from everything. And then there's something called yukta vairagya. Yukta means it's the word yoga is connected to it, right? It means to unite or to join or where things connect. So yukta vairagya means that we can connect everything to God. We can see everything in connection with God. And when that happens, our renunciation doesn't have to be external, but like that itself, that act of connecting something not to yourself but to God is an act of renunciation. And so when you see your children as gods, when you see your property as gods, you don't have to walk away from it to practice yukta vairagya on the path of bhakti yoga. But you can just it's a question of shifting how you see what it is that you're attached to, or how you see what you fear. And rather than seeing it in terms of one's own material enjoyment or suffering, you see it in terms of your service or its connection to God. And then attachment and fear, it actually flips it. It actually, now your attachment is a positive thing rather than a negative thing. And the more attachment you're feeling, the better. Right?
Sure.
And I don't know if we can say the more fear we're feeling, the better. But in a sense, it's kind of like that. If you're fearing on behalf of God, you're thinking of God when you're in fear. The problem with fear and attachment is they stop us from having a steady mind. But if that fear and attachment is in relation to our service to God, or in relation to our connection with God, or to our love for God, then they keep our mind focused on God. It keeps you it keeps you in a state of yogic focus or devotional focus, and that's unique. That's a very unique idea about bhakti, and it's one that makes this path very practical for people in our age, where very few of us have the capability, the detachment, the renunciation, the austerity to walk away, to entirely walk away from these things. But we can transform them. We can see them in another way. And it's not only an authentic path of yoga, but it's actually the path that's being recommended in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in these conclusive bhakti shastras.
We were bringing up Jiva G's quotes on the chat board. I just want to say, if you haven't listened to that interview yesterday, it was a great interview, wasn't it?
I thought it was, yeah.
Really nice. If BRG, Jiva G from the BRG did a great interview about the BRG yesterday. If you haven't heard it, please check it out. We brought in Kelly Skinner and Lori Pag and Danny Kosakowski and Sari. They all shared their experience with the Bhakti Recovery Group. Jiva G told a little bit about the steps and the retreat coming up at Super Soul Farm in October. You can find out about that at wisdomofthesages.com and click on the Sage Academy link.
And that's episode 811.
811. Okay. Yeah, I was really happy with that.
We got to get into this, Raghunath.
All right. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being. Unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. And to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavad sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated. And loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Mara, where are we, please?
Reading.
Om Jnana Timirandasya.
Oops, Mara, don't say a word. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Mara, where are we?
Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 53.
Can we repeat 52?
Sure.
The Rewinder.
Because we never did. Want to shut off your speakers?
The Rewinder.
Yeah.
What's we got?
So we have again Lord Shiva speaking his meditation, this prayer, this chant, this poetry that he meditates on, his own internal thoughts and feelings that he has for Krishna. He's sharing those with these prachetas, these young yogis who are about to go into their deep meditation for a very long time. And he began by describing by praying to the governors of the different universal aspects, elements like the senses and the mind, as well as the element of the earth, water, fire, air, ether, and all the devas that are responsible for those. Because he realized that I'm trapped in a body made of these elements and moving through a world made of these elements. Let me pray to those universal controllers of those elements so that I might be able to fix my meditation clearly. Where? And then he begins to describe where, on the form of Sri Krishna. Now he's been describing that form, and he's going to begin to describe the results of meditation on that form. And so this verse has I thought it was a beautiful verse, and I think it has a fascinating commentary too.
Okay, there's 52 again. My dear Lord, your two lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like two blossoming petals of the lotus flower, which grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all the darkness in the hearts of a conditioned soul.
That's big right there.
Right? My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours, which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all conditioned souls covered with the darkness of ignorance can be enlightened by you as the spiritual master.
Okay, so by meditating on this form, the darkness within the heart of the conditioned soul is dissipated. That's some real spiritual work. Why don't we read the commentary?
Here's the purport. Lord Shiva has thus described the bodily features of the Lord authoritatively. Now he wants to see the lotus feet of the Lord. When a devotee wants to see the transcendental form of the Lord, he begins his meditation on the Lord's body by first looking at the feet of the Lord.
You do that?
When you see the deity, you go right to the feet 1st
Mhm.
and then you look up. Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the transcendental sound form of the Lord, and the 12 cantos are divided in accordance with the transcendental form of the Lord. The first and second cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam are called the two lotus feet of the Lord.
You know that, right? And
No.
Tattoo is the face.
I never
The
heard
rest
that.
of Leela is the smile.
I never heard that.
Yeah.
It is therefore suggested by Lord Shiva that one should first try to see the lotus feet of the Lord. This also means that if one is serious about reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, he must begin by seriously studying the first canto and the second cantos.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. The beauty of the lotus feet of the Lord is compared to the petals of a lotus flower, which grows in the autumn season. By nature's law, in autumn, the dirty or muddy waters of rivers and lakes become very clean.
Because there's a lot of rain in autumn,
Mm.
right? And so it just kind of pushes all the mud down.
At that time, in the dust, right? At that time, the lotus flowers growing in the lakes appear very bright and beautiful. The lotus flower itself is compared to the lotus feet of the Lord, and the petals are compared to the nails of the feet of the Lord. I heard there was a lot of rain this year, and
I saw. It was a Braj Bihari sent.
instead of that video
that
of
was-
Kusham Sarovar, like just
No, of Keshigat.
oh, that was
Right.
Keshi.
That was Keshigat. There's the Yamuna River
Oh, wow.
overflowing and filling up, going up the stairs in Keshigat. Yeah.
Wow, it's exciting. It's just like you get these long dry seasons in India, and then everything will become very
Monsoon.
dusty and brown, and then after the monsoon just comes to life.
Have you been in India for the monsoon before?
No.
I have.
Oh, really?
Yes, I have.
How was that?
I've never seen rain like it in my life.
Where were you?
Mumbai.
In Mumbai. That rains,
hit
it floods
heavy.
the streets, and they have the big Ganesh festival during that. Did you see the Ganesh festival?
No, I didn't. No. But imagine the heaviest storm you've ever seen, and then multiply that by maybe like 2 or 3 times,
Wow.
and then think of that kind of rain going on all day, every day, for months.
Like
That's
how
kind of
does like Bombay even work?
It's unbelievable. I guess to a large degree it slows down.
Must be gross too.
Well, everything
If it
gets
was
moldy.
a jungle, it'd be one
Everything
thing.
gets moldy.
Right.
You can't dry your clothes. It's not like everyone has
Can't drive your
dryers
car.
and stuff like that. I mean, it's not flooded all the time, but it's incredibly humid all the time.
Oh, right. It's probably very mosquito-y.
Yeah, I suppose. Okay.
When
Wherever-
one sees the lotus, where are we?
The lotus flower itself is compared to the lotus feet of the Lord, and the petals are compared to the nails of the feet of the Lord. The nails of the feet of the Lord are very bright.
I'm totally lost.
As Brahma Samhita testifies, Ananda Chinmaya Sarujvala Vigrahasya.
Every limb of that transcendental body of the Lord is made of Ananda Chinmaya Sad Ujvala. Thus, every limb is eternally bright. As sunshine dissipates the darkness of this material world, the effulgence emanating from the body of the Lord immediately dries up the darkness in the heart of the conditioned soul. In other words, everyone's serious about understanding the transcendental science and seeing the transcendental form of the Lord must first of all attempt to see the lotus feet of the Lord by studying the first and second cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Wow. When one sees the lotus feet of the Lord, all kinds of doubts and fears within the heart are vanquished.
Fierce.
This is great instructions, to new devotees.
Well, it makes one think, right? I mean, this is the way that a yogi thinks. A real yogi thinks, right? Is there some darkness in my heart, right? And when we say heart, we mean the mind, but we also mean like that part of our mind where attachments lie, or things that are very dear to us lie, right? And so how much of that in me is dark? How much of that is knowingly, even willingly dark? And what do we mean by dark? What do you think it means by dark?
Anger, fury, resentment, hatred, seeing
Lust,
people as
greed,
others, lust, greed,
callousness, hatred, all of that. The yogi sees that as darkness and wants that lit up, right? Wants that darkness dissipated. So, it's often, sometimes the example is used like at nighttime, thieves come out. At nighttime, different dangers come out. At nighttime, it can be like you're in a certain neighborhood at nighttime, the darkness itself creates fear, and increases the danger and so on. But as the sun starts to come up, the fear dissipates, the darkness dissipates, and it becomes like safe again. You feel safe, you feel comfortable. So when one is shining this light, here Prabhupada's getting specific. He's saying Canto 1 and 2 of the Bhagavatam. It's interesting, right? These two cantos, there's so much to learn in them. By focusing on the messages that are heard there, reflecting on those messages, the darkness within the heart becomes dissipated, right? And that's kind of really our goal. Then the heart becomes that bright place where you feel the presence of Krishna all the time, right? Where you, just like we just came through Janmashtami, right? Which is a holiday celebrating the birth of Krishna.
Yeah.
And it's more, you can celebrate it just on that level. Like, okay, well, we love Krishna, we're worshiping Krishna, it's his birthday, let's celebrate it. And in a sense, it brings our mind to Krishna and so on. But then there are these contemplative bhakti yogis, right, that are going a little deeper into it. And they're thinking that, there's this within that story of Krishna's birth, there's the idea that, Krishna was born, his mother was Devaki, right? And when Devaki, in her marriage procession, she was on a chariot or some kind of, I guess some kind of cart being pulled, and it was being driven by her brother, who was the king. And as I mean, God, talk about wedding fail.
Wedding fail of the century.
As their cart is being drawn and everybody's happy and celebrating, and her brother is celebrating, comes so that this demonic king, who's her brother.
By the way, I follow wedding fail hashtags.
I'm sure you do.
Probably, yeah. Probably figured that out.
So as the cart's being drawn, there's this voice from the sky. It speaks and says, "Kamsa, you fool! Like you're celebrating your, this wedding of your sister, but her 8th child is going to kill you." And then the voice stops. What?
Everybody was like, "What just happened?"
And then he grabs his sister by the hair, pulls out a sword, and is about to kill her. That's where he was at, right? And her brand new husband manages to appease him and calm him down and say, "Don't worry, he's saying whatever he has to say to get through this moment, right?" And so he says, "We'll deliver the children to you as they're born, and then you can kill them." All right, he's abiding for time or whatever. So anyway, what happens is he imprisons them, and they have children one after another, and he does kill them one after another. And then Krishna is born. But it's said that those children, there's kind of like this symbolic meaning behind that, right?
To represent the like the Kama, Kroda, Loba.
Yeah, this darkness in the heart, this lowest nature. So it's symbolic of the idea that before Krishna is born in our heart, we have to rid the heart of all of these different dark aspects of our.
Very interesting.
Right. So this is the way that a bhakti yogi is thinking. This is the way really any genuine yogi is thinking, right? It's not I'm just doing this physical exercise and feeling good, like physically. Even it's more than just like I have a little bit of peace of mind, but it's really like I want to rid my mind and my heart of that lower nature. And when that happens, Krishna arises in that heart. Krishna appears in that heart. You know, then I'm always feeling the presence of God, Radha and Krishna in my heart at every moment. I want to carry them in my heart. I want to make my heart an altar, and an altar. That's also part of the whole kind of the ritualistic aspect of temple worship. Is you see that there's an ornate altar that's spotlessly clean. You know, that's being shown special attention where Radha and Krishna reside. Let my heart become like that, and let my offerings take place there in my mind and my heart. So it's all tied together. But here's Srila Prabhupada. He's focusing us as bhakti yogis. He's giving instruction to the bhakti yogis that the way to do this, a powerful, very effective way, focus on hearing Bhagavatam, right? Hear it, reflect on it, and your inner darkness, it'll become, it'll start to dissipate. We may feel like it's happening quickly, and that's wonderful. We may feel like it's taking a long time, but even a long time if it's a lifetime project, that's a very short time. It's actually like relatively quickly, right?
Well, it's also Prabhupada instituted like the 4 regulative principles.
Yeah.
And those are things that very easily can cause, by indulging in those things, intoxicants, wanton sexuality, gambling. These are things that just bring darkness to the consciousness.
They bring cruelty, right? Like meat eating. They bring these darkness.
They bring the darkness to the consciousness and heart.
Lust.
So that's why those things aren't the goal to hold them back, but they are to help us through the threshold to bhakti. They're all sort of they assist us on the path. They don't give you God, but if my senses are out of control, it's very difficult to approach God because I'm in a very, very confusing tabernacle within my mind.
Tabernacle.
Tabernacle.
Okay. Do you know what the word means?
Perhaps.
I know of the
Perhaps
Mormon.
a quagmire.
I know there's the Mormon tabernacle choir.
Mara, look up tabernacle, please. Let's get to the bottom of this.
I got it right here.
Okay. How did I do?
Well, there's a few different meanings.
Okay.
There's a fixed or movable habitation, typically of light construction. A meeting place.
That wouldn't work. Okay.
A meeting place for worship, used by some Protestants or Latter-day Saints.
Mormon tabernacle choir.
An ornamented receptacle or cabinet in which a pyx or ciborium containing the reserved sacrament may be placed in Catholic churches.
Okay, not that either. Okay. Not doing good here.
How
about a giant granny knot? Is that a definition?
No, it's not. A partly open socket or double post on a sailboat.
Okay, I've had enough of these definitions. Okay. Tabernacle
But it sounds like
a big mess, doesn't it? A tabernacle.
Yeah, right. I don't know why they named a choir after it. Mormon choir after it.
All right. Anyway,
I get your point. It's a good point. It was a good point.
My brain's in a tabernacle right now.
Well, then let's just continue reading this purport.
Where are we at? You know what I do? One of my little fidgety things that I do is I scroll up and down the screen, and then I get back there. I was like, I have no idea where I am.
Why don't you get like one of those little things you spin on your thumb or something like that?
I need something like that.
It's in Bhagavad Gita is where we're at.
In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that in order to make spiritual progress, one must become fearless. Aboyam sapata samsudi.
We're going right back to Yoda.
It's going right back to Yoda. Full circle again. We didn't plan this. Fearfulness is the result of the material involvement. Fearfulness is the result of material involvement.
Okay.
Eva wrote on the board, fearful. Fear means lack of faith. Fear means lack of faith. It is also said in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:237, Boyam vitya yabinas shataha syat. Fearful Sanskrit class.
Have you been
fails.
taking those Sanskrit classes?
Fearfulness is a creation of the bodily conception of life. Me and Mara are learning Hindi, though.
Okay. I saw you guys talking a little Hindi
We
the
were
other
talking
day.
a little Hindi yesterday, huh?
Yeah,
It was pretty
Day
impressive.
before yesterday.
As long as one is absorbed in the thought that he is in the material body, he is fearful. And as soon as one is freed from the material conception, he becomes Brahmabhuta, or self-realized, and immediately becomes fearless. Brahmabhuta Prasanatma.
Hold it. Does
1854.
does Karuna know that one? 1854.
Is Karuna here today? I didn't see her.
Yeah, I saw her.
Without being fearless, one cannot be joyful. Boom. The bhaktas, the devotees, are fearless and always joyful because they are constantly engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. So here's the deal. I don't have to work on, okay, I'm just not going to worry about this. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm not going to worry about this. That's not going to make me fearless. I have to start focusing on Krishna love, Krishna service, Krishna bhakti, and then naturally I become fearless.
That's like the sun rising and the heart rising in the mind, and it's dissipating the fear.
It's not something, it's not the brown leaf I have to go and water. I've got to go to the roots of the tree. This has been our ongoing theme. I can't, don't worry, be happy. You know, don't you worry about a thing. No, you will. You got to just worship Krishna. Once you trust Krishna, it'll all be okay. Krishna's got a plan. There's a greater plan. Acceptance is the key that set me free.
I like it.
Okay. What do you got?
What I got for we'll just keep
I thought
reading.
you were
We'll get into
finding
this
Karuna.
Bhagavatam
You
verse.
didn't
Oh,
find
what about Karuna? Does she know that verse? Brahmabhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakanchati. Is she around?
I should tell Tarun. You wanna play your video game? Give me a verse. You give me a verse, I'll give you a video game.
Ooh, I saw you do that with him yesterday, but it was like you told him to go read the
Amar
Mahabharata.
Chitrikata comic book.
Yeah, but that would be, you don't know if he's reading that or not, right? Unless you quiz him or something like that.
I quiz him.
Oh, okay.
He loves getting quizzed.
But by telling him to give you a verse, that's putting him on the spot right there.
Yeah. Okay, let's ready? Where are we?
Without being fearless, one cannot be joyful. The bhaktas, the devotees, are fearless and always joyful because they're constantly engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. It is also said, you with me, Raghu?
Trying to find it. Keep reading.
Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vigyanam mukta sangasya jayate. That's Bhagavatam 1:2:20.
By practicing Bhagavat Bhakti Yoga, one becomes fearless and joyful. Unless one becomes fearless and joyful, he cannot understand the science of God. Interesting. Bhagavat Tattva Vigyanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. This verse refers to those who are completely liberated from the fearfulness of this material world. When one is so liberated, he can really understand the transcendental features of the form of the Lord. Lord Shiva therefore advises everyone to practice Bhagavat Bhakti Yoga, as will be clear in the following verses. By doing so, one can become really liberated and enjoy spiritual bliss. It's also stated,
Here we go.
the Lord is the supreme spiritual master. The bona fide representative of the Lord is also the spiritual master. The Lord from within enlightens the devotees by the effulgence of the nails of his lotus feet. And his representative, the spiritual master, enlightens from without.
Okay, so it's going on intern. It's coming from inside. It's coming from outside.
Only by thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord and always taking the spiritual master's advice can one advance in spiritual life and understand Vedic knowledge. Yasya deva para bhaktir yata deva tata guru tasyaiti katita hyarta prakashante mahatmana. Thus, the Vedas enjoin that for one who has unflinching faith in the lotus feet of the Lord, as well as the spiritual master, the real import of the Vedic knowledge can be revealed.
What a beautiful commentary. I feel like it lit up my heart this morning, right?
I got news for you.
Yeah.
You light up my life.
Okay.
You give me hope to carry on.
If it's just one
You
time
light
a
up
show.
my
You did it,
day
Raghunath. You...
and fill my heart with love.
Thank you.
That was a good song, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Live. Appreciate
Try
that
not to
one.
encourage it too much. I think we're out of time, Raghu.
Actually, that song can be transferred to Krishna. If you transfer it to...
Who sang it? Quiz. Hot seat.
it was some girl. I don't know.
Was it Debbie Boone?
Not Debbie Boone.
You
Maybe.
sure?
Anybody? Takers on that?
I think it
Someone's
was
gonna
Debbie
Google
Boone.
it.
I'll look it up.
I remember when it came out and everyone was like, that's the cheesiest song. That's the cheesiest song. And I was like, it's the most beautiful song.
I think I was on the cheesy side.
I liked all the cheesy stuff. I remember when the Bee Gees came out, everyone was like, Bee Gees, yeah, oh, classic
It was Debbie
rock.
Boone.
The Bee Gees. I was like, the Bee Gees are so good.
It was Debbie Boone, Raghunath.
It was Debbie Boone.
Yeah.
I remember when Saturday Night Fever soundtrack came out, and everyone was like, Saturday Night Fever disco dance, and that sucks. I was like, all these songs are good. I want to learn how to disco dance.
This is a good Bhakti song here, Raghunath. You light up my life.
You got the lyrics?
Yeah. So many nights I'd sit by my window. This is the soul hankering for God, suffering.
Waiting for someone to sing me their song.
So many dreams I kept deep inside me.
Alone in the dark.
But now you've come along.
And you.
No, you don't have to
Come on,
say
everybody. Light up my life.
Rolling at sea, adrift on the water. Could it be finally I'm turning for home? Finally a chance to say,
Hey, I love you.
is that what you got to say to Krishna today? Hey, Krishna,
Hey, I love you.
I love you. Never again to be all alone. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's very good. That maybe it could be 100% God conscious.
That could be a poetry from Surdas or something like that.
Yeah,
practically.
Narottam Das Thakur has written.
If you just turn it to
You
Krishna.
light up my life.
Just
You
turn it-
give me hope.
See, it shows the
You
same
are Jyoti.
the attachment, longing, all these things. If they turn to Krishna, they become spiritualized.
Mara. That's got to be one of your takeaways. You light up my life.
Yeah, it's hard to follow that up, but I do have some takeaways.
Okay.
Dig in and examine your fears to cultivate detachment.
Yes. Yes.
Refine your love to love in a pure way.
Mhm.
Krishna is the one repository of love.
Yeah.
Free yourself from fear to become even-minded.
Even-minded.
Develop attachment for God to materially detach.
What?
Develop attachment to detach from your material. To detach
Okay.
materially. You don't like it.
That works.
Thanks, Kastub. We're in training for love.
We're in training for love. Dun. Sorry. Kostuma goes, ugh.
It hurts everybody's ears when you do that too. You know, it's like
Spiritual knowledge is a nightlight that makes dark places less scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
You cannot wish thoughts away. Replace them with thoughts of Krishna.
You cannot. Okay. Just go.
Krishna
Just keep
eyes. Krishna eyes everything,
Krishna is everything. Yep.
and Krishna lights up our life.
Oh, man.
gives us hope to carry on.
You light up my day and fill my heart with love. It can't be wrong when it feels so right. Because you, Kostuba, you light up my life. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Hey, make sure you check out that interview we did yesterday with Jiva G for our Bhakti Recovery group.
It's
Everybody's
Jiva's
got some
birthday
trauma
today.
We got to deal with. It's a great thing we got going over there. 300-hour training in January. Go to my website, raghunath.yoga. Got a Kirtan Academy happening in India, January 16th to 29th in India. It's all happening at the Govardhan Echo Village. Radhanath Swami is just walking around us the whole time, stopping in, checking in on us. And of course, the wisdom training is happening, Wisdom of the Sages, people, the 14th through the 29th in India. Guess how it ends? It ends where I take a bunch of flowers in my hands, throw them at Kaustubha's head, flower petals, and then he picks up some and throws them back at me. And we have a big flower festival at the Chowpatty Temple in Mumbai. We're very excited for that. If you've been there, when you throw flowers on someone like that, it's like becomes like a flower war.
Raghunath, this just in. Jiva and Nancy's birthdays today.
It's Jiva and Nancy's birthday. This is crazy. This is crazy stuff happening. How can that be? Woo!
Happy birthday.
Let's celebrate.